how serious is the threat of communist China to Israel? Now that may seem like a silly question, because you think, well, the communist Chinese are focused on Taiwan, they're focused on the Pacific, but it's not as silly as you think. Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg. I'm here on an IDF, Israeli Defense Forces base in northern Israel, not far from the Lebanon border. And over the next few minutes, I want to walk you through 18,000 pieces of military hardware, weapons captured by the Israeli forces in southern Lebanon from Hezbollah. As you know, I've got a novel coming out in March called The Beijing Betrayal. It is about the communist Chinese threat, not just to America, not just to the Pacific, not just to Taiwan, although those are major elements, but also how China works with radical Islamists to threaten American interests and threaten Israel. So we'll talk about that more in a few minutes, but let's start here. I'm on this base looking at all this hardware that's been captured, all this military hardware captured by Israel from Hezbollah. What you have here is a description of some of what we've got here. The QW-1 Chinese anti-aircraft rocket launcher. Now this is incredibly dangerous, and here's an actual an example of one of these launchers. Okay, now just imagine this. It's portable, it's light. This is very lightweight. And what you do is you aim it at the sky, load it with a missile, and fire it at an Israeli aircraft. Now that could be a military aircraft, though obviously the military aircraft is going to fight back. But what's incredibly dangerous about this as well is it could shoot down Israeli civilian aircraft, or not just Israeli. What about civilian aircraft coming into Israel and land at Ben Gurion Airport? This is just chillingly dangerous. And this is just one example of the Chinese, Iranian, and Russian weapons that were found here. Let's look at an Iranian missile launcher. In fact, an Iranian Israeli who does analysis and reporting on the Iranian threat to Israel and to the United States and the West, showed me this. This is fascinating. If we can get a close-up, this is, again, a weapon from Hezbollah, but it was built in Iran. You can see, if you guys come around, you'll see the symbol of the Iranian flag. You'll see Persian writing. And again, these are just a couple of examples of the massive amounts of weapons that Israel has captured in these southern villages in southern Lebanon. And you can't get these from the air. No matter how many ways you strike from an F-35 or an F-18 or whatever, you can't capture weapons from the air. You have to send ground forces in, and that's what Israel did. Yes, it softened up the targets over the last year from the air, but eventually Israel had to go in, and they did. And what we're watching here is 18,000 pieces of weapons, machine guns, submachine guns, missile launchers, missiles themselves, boxes of bullets, of other ammunition. It's just astonishing to think that every single one of these weapons, had it been in the hands of a Hezbollah terrorist, would be aimed at killing Israelis and anyone else that got in their way. These are AK-103s. I mean, look at this. I mean, just think of the concept of these all being in the hands of trained Hezbollah fighters, all funded by Iran. But some of these weapons are Iranian, as we said. Some of them are Russian and some of them are Chinese. And it's just the range of these weapons, the amount of these weapons, and this is just a fraction. The IDF actually invited some journalists, myself included, to come up here and to get a sense, to get a briefing, first of all, and then just walk through this stuff and get a sense of what they've captured and how they prevented a Hezbollah invasion of northern Israel. Hezbollah actually had a plan. Hezbollah had a plan that they published 10 years ago in which they said, we're going to invade Israel, and this is how we're going to do it. And Israel has been preparing for that day of invasion, but as I was told by a senior Israeli official, whom I cannot name, he told me in a briefing earlier today that if Hezbollah had launched on October 7th or 8th or 9th, or in those early days, right after Hamas invaded southern Israel, Hezbollah very likely would have had the Galilee. They would have been on the road to Tel Aviv. Israel was not ready for a Hezbollah invasion. But Hezbollah was ready in terms of they were armed, they were trained, but they seem to have been caught off guard by the Hamas timing. It wasn't that Hamas and Hezbollah had different objectives. They both planned to invade Israel. Hamas from the south, Hezbollah from the north, all with Iranian direction. But somewhere, somehow, I would say by God's grace, the communications of the timing between Hamas and Hezbollah was not in synchronization. And therefore, when Hamas launched, Hezbollah was surprised. And that gave Israel time to mobilize its forces, move them to the north, and prevent all these weapons from being used to kill Israelis and slaughter Israelis and take over the northern third of the state of Israel. Now, in the weeks and months ahead, I want to focus more on the threat from China. You know that I focus a lot on the threat from Iran, from Russia, from radical Islamism, whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. We're going to keep covering that because it's very serious and this war is not over. But being here today underscores something that I'm really concerned about, and that is the threat to Israel, as well as to the United States, as well as to our Sunni Arab allies, the ones that have peace with Israel: Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, hopefully eventually Saudi Arabia. The threat posed to all of us, especially the United States and Israel, posed by Communist China. They are not, Communist China, Beijing is not just interested in invading Taiwan. They are. But they are working closely with the forces of radical Islamism. Why? To undermine and eventually disrupt and overthrow the Western security doctrine. And I deal with this pretty chillingly, hopefully in an entertaining way also, in the Beijing Betrayal, which comes out, again, as I said, on March 11th, and you can pre-order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you love to get books, The Beijing Betrayal. But I'll tell you, the more I learn, the more I talk to senior Israeli officials, senior American officials, intelligence officials throughout the region, including Arab leaders, the threat that Communist China poses to Israel, the United States, and the peaceful Arab world is terrifying. China is investing money and weapons in our worst enemies. I deal with it fictionally in the Beijing Betrayal, but this is evidence that it's not fiction. What I'm writing about in a novel form is actually very much real, and it could get worse if US, Israeli, and other regional and world leaders don't take the Communist Chinese threat seriously. This is Joel Rosenberg on an IDF base not far from the Lebanon border in northern Israel with a YouTube exclusive for the Rosenberg Report.